Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective, where you get a little bit of something and a whole lot of everything. Today, you get pissed off me. I know. Not the way you thought I was going to start this, especially with a smile on my face, but yeah, I am legit beside myself right now. Excuse me, I gotta sneeze. Ooh, excuse me. Apparently, I'm allergic to myself. But, I don't normally like to get on my soapbox 2 days in a row. And Friday I was a bit on my soapbox, I admit. But this has been an interesting weekend. It has been a weekend for the records and for the books in Southern California, especially in LA. And I had all these things I wanted to talk about on my show. And all these things that were just angry and kind of filled with vitriol and vile and all that stuff. And I realized the Aloha Perspective is about perspective. Good morning, Muddy. So even though I just told you that you're getting pissed off me today, I'm going to try to keep it as friendly and normal and nice as I can. All right. So there are a lot of things that when I'm not doing this show, feel about what's going on in the world and this country right now. And as the person that does do the Aloha Perspective, I try to keep it a little more even-keeled. Every so often I will get on my soapbox and I'll talk about stuff like I did on Friday and obviously right now. But I try to keep it off of here because I think this is a place that we all need to figure out how to come together and be together. So I'm just going to, for the time being, I don't want to say it's never going to happen again because sometimes I forget, okay? But for right now, this is the only time I'm going to talk about this because I want to keep the Aloha Perspective a safe place, but also a place that people feel like they're welcome no matter who you are, how you vote, how you worship, how you identify, anything. So if this offends some people, I apologize, but I'm here with facts, okay? Facts only. And I'm here doing my best to deliver also some opinions. As humans, we are not born with hate in our hearts. We are not born with anything but kindness and goodness. We are basically a blank slate, to be honest. We're probably not even born with love and goodness, right? We're a blank slate. We're that whiteboard, that chalkboard that has nothing on it yet. It's fresh out of the wrapper. And that's what we're born as. We're born fresh out of the wrapper. And as we get older, whether it's from our family or whether it's from outside sources, we grow into who we are. Sometimes bad things happen to us. Sometimes they don't. And that's great. If you are living the life where, you've never had to really deal with any specific sort of unnatural trauma, I'll say unnatural because grief happens, right? We lose people die. It hurts. We lose jobs, we lose relationships, we lose friends, either whether it's because they moved away or there was something that just happened. But either way, those are the natural things of life. Unnatural traumas are things that, are just thrown upon us that we have to deal with, and that can kind of skew the way you look at the world and the way you look at people and how it affects your relationships and all these other things. So, but because we're blank slates, how we're raised is really important. I was raised to not have prejudice. I was raised to believe that no matter the color of our skin, we all look the same on the inside. My mother's Filipino. I am third generation American on my mother's side. My great-grandmother came from the Philippines. My great-grandfather came from the Philippines. On my father's side, I believe, without doing the math really quick, I am about fifth generation American, partly because his grandfather came from Belgium. And my great grandmother, her grandfather, came from Ireland. So I am a bit of a mixed hodgepodge of things. And also on my mother's side, there's a lot of Hawaiian in me and a lot of other stuff that I'm not totally certain of, but but yeah, a lot of European and British stuff happened in there. But so I'm a mixed pot. I am kind of what, America represents, right? I'm not saying that if you are not a mixed breed like me, that, you're not an American. Of course you are. And to be honest with you, I think we're all mixed breeds. It's just, Muddy and I call each other Mutts Mutt twins, because we have so many. We, combined together, we probably roll in over 15, 16, 17, heading into 20 nationalities. All right. So we got a lot of hodgepodge in there, but that's what makes us us. That the Statue of Liberty, bring me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses. It was a gift from France for our centennial anniversary. And when you think about it, we are 249 years old this year. Not that old at all, right? 249 years old. And to a lot of people, 249 probably seems like a long time. And it is. It really is. But when you compare ourselves to countries like England or Italy or Russia or even Germany, and, I know a lot of those places have had a lot of makeovers, and they've gone through a lot of different things. But we're still a young country trying to find our way. And this last weekend has just really upended me in a way that I wasn't expecting. I'm going to say this the way I feel it. LA came under attack by the president. Okay. Yes, they were doing ICE raids. And yes, there are a lot of people who still protest them, not just in California, but everywhere they're happening. People don't want to see their neighbors just dragged out of their homes like, this is 1938 or 9 with Hitler in power. And I don't care if you get mad at the comparison, but think about it. Those people were dragged from their homes, told they had to leave, put in a bunch of ghettos, and then dragged out of there and brought to concentration camps. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but we do know there are deportation centers. A father and a son were arrested even before their legal proceedings. The boy is 9. He was separated from his father, and he was put in a deportation center and separated. 9 years old. Okay, 9 years old. If you tell me that's not going to affect somebody, you're wrong. And then you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, they were illegal. They should have known better. Of course. Of course. It's like I said, people come here walking sometimes thousands of miles, paying people to sneak them over the border, paying the coyotes to sneak thousands of dollars to sneak them over for a chance at a better life. I was watching an interview last night with Pedro Pascal from, I think, last month, and he was talking about how he was an immigrant, and he was very fortunate to be able to grow up in the United States, and as his family had to escape Chile because of a dictator down there, a very dangerous dictator. When we don't learn from the past tends to repeat itself. So for all those people, especially some of the people that questioned me this weekend with what I was posting, I'm going to throw some numbers at you. Okay? Joe Biden was in office for 4 years. He deported 4.44 million illegal immigrants. President Obama in his first term deported 3.13. And in total of his 8 years, I believe what I read was 5.76 million illegal immigrants. In Donald Trump's first term, 4 years, okay, he deported less than 1.8 million people. And yet now this is what he's running on. Normally when a National Guard is called in, they're called in by request of the state, not request of the president. Now, I'm going to tell you why I take issue with this and why I take very major issue with this. When our Capitol was being attacked on January 6th, with people threatening to kill the vice president because he wouldn't overturn an election, he would not call in the National Guard. He called it a day of love. That's what he called it, a day of love. Police officers died. The ones, some of them that it didn't, you know, some of them died from their injuries. Others died from their, you know, from just the trauma, the PTSD of it all. And, you know, you can be mad at me for what I'm talking about. You can be angry at me for what I'm talking about, but I'm spilling the truth at you. What happened in LA was unnecessary and uncalled for. People were peacefully protesting, but all you're going to see on the news are the people who were being obnoxious and burning up cars and, you know, attacking the police officers, because that's what sells. Sensationalism sells. And people are afraid. There was a gentleman, an anchor at ABC News, who spoke out against this, and who spoke out against Stephen Miller, who is one of the chief of staff, I believe. And he was suspended from his job. Why? Don't we have freedom of press? What if a news station's credentials were taken away under Obama's term, under George Bush Jr.'s term, under Biden's term? For a lot of you who don't realize this, they have what they call the President's Club. The President's Club is you know, it's obviously what it sounds like. It's the President's Club. And you're going to sit there and say, oh, well, you know, they're just, you know, no. These are people who have kind of tried to mentor each other through things, whether they were a Republican or a Democrat. The only Republican in that club right now is George Bush Jr., you know, is W. And then there's Clinton, Obama, and Biden. And there's a reason, because they see what Trump is doing. And I don't understand how people can fall in line with this. This is a man calling these people criminals, including children who are just trying to go to school, who for the most part are just following their parents. And like I said, yes, there is a better way to do this. Yes, there is a legal way to do this, but it's also a very expensive way. To hire an immigration lawyer costs a lot of money. To wait for your trial to come through when you know, for your due processing, it takes a long time. Why people drag their feet? No idea. But like I said, imagine if you were the person. If you were the person, you know, walking thousands, hundreds or thousands of miles just for a chance at a better life. I talked about this Friday, and I still don't understand why I can't get it through people's heads. In the last 17 years, 2 presidents who were not Trump deported over 9 million illegal immigrants. I don't know how many have been deported since Trump became president again, but raiding a person's home and treating them like they have just, you know, offended the world, breaking into their homes with guns, armed to the hilt, it's grandstanding. Obama and Biden, I should have looked up W's deportation numbers, and I'm sorry I didn't, but I just figured I'd stick within the last 20 years, really. But, you know, they didn't need National Guards. They didn't need people to go breaking down doors. How about doing that to some of the drug dealers? How about, you know, where were these people when, you know, all these women were being sex trafficked? You know, they sit there and try to come up with all these things, but this is what I'm talking about. If you want to know what's really happening, do your own homework. Do your own homework. Don't go by what your favorite news channel tells you. Don't go by what your favorite blue checkmark person tells you. Do your own damn fact checking. Do your own homework. Because that's how we learn. That's how we get the truth. You have a man out there who is convicted of 34 felonies and who was found liable in several rape cases, and he's calling them criminals. And people will sit there and say, oh, well, those are trumped up charges. Oh, those are fake charges. No, they're genuinely real. They're real. And anybody else who was not under that name would have gone to jail for those things, and for a very long time. And now, of course, we're dealing with the fallout between Musk and Trump. Who did not see that coming? Two egos clashing. That was never going to end well. They're two people who used each other to get what they needed and got what they wanted. And to be honest with you, I told Sibling that it was very interesting that all of a sudden he was attacking LA while Musk was talking about all these Epstein things. And all that. I mean, come on, you can't deep fake a VHS video. I'm sorry. I mean, these videos were around when I was younger. I remember seeing them on Entertainment Tonight. Some of them are from Entertainment Tonight. These are public records, some of these things. Just two men grandstanding and profiling and acting like, the world can't touch them. I don't care how you want to vote. I don't care who you throw your support behind. People have called me woke now, which thank you, because I am an empathetic, compassionate creature. And then they use the term TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome. By the way, that was initially about Trump followers. That came from the early days of W's presidency, where anybody who defended George Bush Jr. was called Bush Derangement Syndrome, because they couldn't find anything wrong with him. And as usual, the far right has managed to take a term and flip it for their own purpose. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to call that out. I'm not saying that Republicans are bad. I know a lot of Republicans who are against all of this. Sibling is one of them, and she'll come out right out and tell you this. She can't understand how people can be so brainwashed, and yet I'm the one called a sheep. I do my homework. I do my fact-checking. See, all these people are sitting there going, yeah, he's getting rid of all these illegal immigrants. I just want to also point out to you that I shared my lineage. Donald Trump's mother was from Scotland. His grandparents were from Scotland. His grandfather was from Germany. The only person, which basically is birthright citizenship, was his father. Bet you didn't know that. And somebody tried to call me out on that this weekend, saying, well, my grandparents are, immigrants. It's like, yeah, so were mine. My great-grandparents were. But his great-grandparents weren't. His grandparents were. And yet he's so anti-illegal. I don't understand the thought process of loving a man who is so filled with hate. I don't see it as being a party thing anymore. I was talking to someone and saying that this party, the party is so divided. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. There are so many accounts out there, and they're all Republicans. I mean, Jesus, Democrats could just sit back and let the Republicans do all the work. The ones that don't like him. You have people that he went after, like Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. He went after them. They're Republicans. They are very conservative. But he went after them because they went after the J6ers. And that's okay? No. Now he's threatening Elon Musk because Elon Musk, I told Sibling, I said, he's been invited into the inner sanctum. That is not going to end well because there's a lot that he probably knows. And with, computer hackers at his whim, there's a lot he could probably find out because he has access, because Trump gave him all that access to everybody's personal files. You have a man who insisted on seeing Obama's birth certificate, but he won't share his own taxes. There's so much hypocrisy going on that it just blows my mind, and nobody wants to see it. Nobody who voted for him wants to see it. There's a lot of people now who are veterans that had voted for him who are starting to be like, uh-oh, because he's cutting their jobs. He's cutting their funding. He's trying to cut Medicaid. Okay, so all the people out there who, are on public assistance are going to get screwed. And should there be stipulations on it? Sure. I'm not sure if my mom would appreciate me sharing this, but when my parents first came out here to San Diego, it was rough. I was only 4 months old, so I had no idea. But my mom went on well. My parents were, on public assistance. My mom said that, and I remember I was just going like, oh, people in welfare, blah, 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 being all uppity, right? And she said that, she's all, don't knock that, because I was. And they trained her, they gave her a new skill. And my mom, within a year, got a job when she started the day after my first birthday at San Diego State, and she retired from there. So in 1974 to 2008, she was an employee there. Because she made something, she did something. My mom was a very persistent person. Now here's the kicker. I used to be a Republican. I was one of those people that was shouting to see the birth certificate. I was one of those people that almost fell under the spell of Donald Trump, but I didn't. And that doesn't mean that if you have, you're bad. It just means that, sometimes we double down because we don't want to be wrong. And a lot of times we don't want to be wrong because maybe there's something else hurting us. Maybe something else inside of us is making us angry. Maybe something else inside of us is making us feel like, we need to be angry at something. And I think that's what makes me mad, is that this person who is the leader of our country, the way he talks on his Twitter, the way he just calls people names, it's so immature. It's so childish. Imagine if any other president had done that. Imagine if any other president called the governor of California new scum instead of Newsom. It's inappropriate, especially for a world leader. A leader of someone who, of a country that used to be one of the tops. I have friends that live overseas. They're all laughing at us. They all think we're a joke now. We used to be this superpower, but now we just have a guy who's trying to turn the country into what he wants it into. And now this weekend, he's throwing himself a parade. He's hiding it under the guise of celebrating the Army, who turned 250 this year. But there are a lot of other military people that turned 250 this year that they're not being celebrated. But no, guess what? It just happens to land on his birthday. I will not be celebrating that, and I will not be tuning in. I don't need to see a North Korean or communist version of a military parade in the United States with tanks and all that other bullshit going down the thing. Do I respect our military? Absolutely, 100%. My father was in the Army. I have cousins in the Navy. I have cousins that are retired Marines. I have cousins who are retired Air Force and who are still in some of these branches. Absolutely respect the military. I do not respect their commander-in-chief. I'm sorry. This is the first time in my life I have not been able to get behind a president in any way. I did not vote for President Obama. I was a Republican at the time. And at the time, I was filled with a lot of vitriol. I was filled with a lot of angst and anger. And when I found out that they decided to nominate a man who was party jumping his entire life, adult life, until he could find a party that would nominate him. Oh yeah, guys, he was a Democrat several times. He tried to start his own party and run. He tried to be an independent and run. Then he became a Republican and poof. They nominated him. I never liked him when he was a celebrity or otherwise. He was always in my mom's People magazines. A man who takes his wife, to his first wife to Colorado, to all the fancy places, and then he's sneaking off to go sleep with someone else who became his second wife. And I'm not even sure how that ended, but now he's on his third one. And it's just kind of like, I just don't understand the thought process. People will make excuses for anybody, and that's right or left. People will make excuses for anybody, whether they make the right choices or not. But I have done a lot of homework, and I will say this. My anger towards the Democrats has been pretty unfounded, because I found out, when you do your own homework, you find out how much they actually have done. And that's what he's afraid of. Because he knows that all the things that he's trying to do can be undone like that. And what makes me really upset are all these Republicans that kowtow to him out of fear of not being reelected. I can't think of Mitch McConnell. Was that his name? he's not going to seek another term. So all of a sudden he's decided that, I'm going to start speaking up for what I think is right. It's a little too late, but I also get it. Because a lot of them are afraid. This is their livelihood. This is all they know. Most of them have been in Congress and the Senate for so long that they don't know how to do anything else. I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi. I'm going to tell you that straight up. Okay? And a lot of people might say, what? No, I'm not. I don't think she's as self-serving as people think she is, but she's a little too in your face for me, and I don't think that helps either. I miss the people like John McCain and Teddy Kennedy, who were willing to reach across the aisle and work with one another. I mean, Ted Kennedy had his own skeletons, mind you. But at the same time, when he got older and kind of became the true patriarch again of the Kennedy family, he worked a lot with the other side. McCain worked a lot with the other side. And he was basically an independent, but he was a conservative independent. We really just need to think about how we treat people. We need to think about why, we just see something on TV and automatically think it's okay. And think that it's the right thing to do. Like I said, I am from Southern California. I get local news. I know people who are out there watching these things happening, who are getting their alerts, who are getting, all these different things. I know that there were a lot of peaceful protests. One of the reasons why the National Guard was called in, despite the fact that it's supposed to be requested by the governor of the state, is because the FBI, while trying to do their thing, called, LAPD, and LAPD said they're not violent. They're peacefully protesting. There's nothing we can do. And somebody up above did not like that. So he tried to push his hand. This isn't about doing the right thing. This is about grandstanding. And if you don't understand what grandstanding is, if you think I'm talking out of the side of my face and have no business saying what I'm saying, you don't need to watch this. Okay? You can hate me. You can dislike me. I really don't care. Because I want to be on the right side of history, not the wrong side of history. 81 years ago was D-Day. Just this last June 6th. We fought against fascism then. We fought against people that were trying to marginalize other people. You have people in Israel and Gaza fighting over everything, and you have people in Gaza who are being denied the simplest needs. For what? Because, we want to teach them a lesson, because we want to show them. And instead of coming together, you have people who are on, team this or team that. And you have all the people in the middle trying to sort this out and be the good people. And some of them are of either side going, hey, let's work together. But they can't because everyone else is standing in their way. I'm in the middle. Politically, I have not always been in the middle. I admit I was a little far right for a long time. But I found my way to the middle because of older sibling. Older sibling has always been a centrist, and she taught me one of the most important things that I will ever learn in my life. Do your own fact checking. Do your homework. Don't just vote party. Vote for what you think is right. Check out the candidates. Check out the propositions. Check out all the things. Read both sides. And when you come to your conclusion, then you vote. Don't just checkbox people because, they're your party. Everybody wants to blame everybody else, but sometimes just, checking the box down one side because that's your people, it's not necessarily going to get things done. It's not. So let me see. You know what, Sammy? Okay. So Sammy says an ESL class that meets at the church that my church meets at have stopped doing their classes out of fear of INS. So there you go. She's in Georgia. So it is happening everywhere. I've seen videos where people, like families, have pulled into their driveway and they've, the INS has shown up at their door and their neighbors come out, and their neighbors, and I don't mean their Mexican neighbors or their, Asian neighbors or they're white neighbors and their African American neighbors. And they come out, they'll block the car so the people can get in, and they'll tell them, get in the house right now. Get in the house right now. But now even that's not safe because they're starting to break down doors. That's not necessary. As far as I'm concerned, not necessary. All you're doing is traumatizing a bunch of people. I get the whole understanding of illegal. Okay, I do. All right, I mean, I am pretty sure that the only reason my great-grandmother was still allowed to be here was because she went to a state that was a territory. All right, and then everybody in that territory became, I guess, became automatic citizens. I don't know. I'm curious about that. Because my parents were born in Hawaii before it became a state. 1959. So my mom was 11 and my dad was almost 14 when Hawaii became a state. I was only, it had only been a state for 14 years by the time I was born. I know. So I am sorry for getting on my soapbox. I do apologize for making this a bit of a political grandstand of my own. But I just want to understand why we devolve into self-hate, into actually not self-hating, but just hateful people who cheer bad decisions on. And it's not right. It's not good. It doesn't matter where you stand politically. You really got to stop and think about, is this okay? I'm in San Diego, and because I'm here again helping my dad. And I was reading an article about a man who I would have never read if I was in Orange County because, I have an Apple phone. So, of course it's going to give me all the news from my location. And there's a gentleman that lives in Chula Vista, which is literally spitting distance from Mexico. And it's not right next to it. That would be San Ysidro, but it is within I would say spitting distance, but it's within, it's not a long drive. I mean, on a very clear day from where I live, and it's still about 25 miles from the border, I can see Mexico on a very clear day in the very, very background from where we are, because I'm on top of a hill. But he was given a letter. People showed up at his door. He and his mom are both American. I can't remember if his mom was born here or if she migrated here, but she was legal. She had all her papers, and her son was legal. And they tried to deport him. And he's like, excuse me, I don't know who you're talking about, but I was born here. I was born right up the street in that hospital over there, and we've lived here my whole life. And then they tried to backtrack and say, oh, well, we made a mistake. Just disregard this. And we thought you were someone else. No. With his whole name, date of birth, address, they thought it was someone else. They made a mistake because they looked at his name and profiled him. And I get it sometimes in some cases, especially at the airport with all the hysteria and the paranoia that goes on nowadays with traveling. I understand the profiling to a very light degree. But that doesn't mean you should go out there and judge the person walking down the street because they look different from you. Or they worship differently than you. Or they speak a different language than you. Yeah, exactly, Sammy. And that's what I was saying earlier. In reality, the ancestors of most of us in this country came here from elsewhere to have a better, more free life. Why can't people just live and let live, love and let love? Absolutely, absolutely. To be very, very honest with you, even the Native Americans are not from here. Believe it or not, they migrated too, but they did it thousands of years ago. So technically, they were the first people to land on this continent, and work their way down to the tip of it and north of it. And then everybody else came over, put them on reservations. I mean, come on, this is a group of people who learned how to run a casino better than somebody who had to file bankruptcy 6 times. And they're thriving. God, they're building hotels now. And I mean, they're just dotting the areas. There's one not far from my dad's house that I actually want to go to. I'm not much of a gambler, to be honest with you. I think I sabotage myself because I always sit there and go, I'm not a lucky person. But they have a Tony Gwynn cafe there. And Tony Gwynn is Mr. Padre. And Mr. Padre, it's our baseball team here in San Diego. And that man had many opportunities to go off and play with other teams where he could have won a championship. But he chose to stay here. And so they have a Tony Gwynn cafe, and I really want to go there because it got memorabilia and stuff. But that's my only thing. I mean, when I go to Vegas, like, sibling and I don't gamble, so we just sit there and we're tourists. We sightsee. We go through all the casinos, look at all the shops and everything, and all the little fun things, roller coasters, the gondola rides, all those things. But I'm with Sammy. Just live and let live. Look, like I said, I get it. I'm not saying that everybody and their grandmother should be allowed to come into this country, okay? But there's a very small percentage that are actually criminals. And I'm being honest. I'm sorry again that I can't remember the number, but there's the percentage of people who are actual criminals is very small. Very, very small. And, if you want, people will sit there and go, well, they're sneaking in with the other people. Well, if you're doing your homework and you know who they are, you know how to catch them. Okay, but don't blame all these other people who are just trying to come for a better life, trying to escape dictatorships, trying to escape drug, cartels. They're coming mostly to give their children a better life. Because, I was reading, there was this one show I used to watch where it's about this police department that sits right on the border, and it's one of the biggest drug crossing areas. And they were talking about how, just the other day we were down there talking to this one family. Their son had gone out and was caught in a crossfire of 2 drug cartels. And he died. And then you wonder why people want to come here so their kids can have a better life. Even if it's just, having to sneak in because they don't know how else to do it. A lot of places don't know how else to do it. And it's not just Mexican people. It's Asians. It's Mideasterners. It's everybody. And yet only one group is being picked on. Only one group is being marginalized. And we have to ask ourselves why. So I rambled on long enough about all of this, and you can see I'm pretty angry. I tried to keep my verbal stuff inside my face, but yeah, now you know how I feel. And like I said, I'm a centrist politically. I try to look at both sides. I try to see both sides. I scratch my head. Believe it or not, when I did a lot of my healing, a lot of my thought processes changed because I wasn't as angry anymore. I wasn't angry at the world anymore. I wasn't angry at, somebody walking by me and breathing. And it changed my perspective on a lot of things. And it helped me open my eyes to see that, what we may consider bad or wrong or disruptive to our lives really isn't. I will tell you this much. In the state of California, for all the people that seem to believe that it is possible, you cannot vote if you are not a citizen of this country. You have to go through all these different checks, and it's more than just a social security number because, they will literally, it's a tax thing as well. But I don't know how they figure it out, but I was watching it on the news, and they were like, yeah, we know how to distinguish between who is and who isn't a citizen. So, and most of them will not try to vote because they don't want to get caught. And that's the one thing most people don't think of. If they go to register to vote, they're putting their address on something because even when you sign in, you have to be on a list that shows that you are an American citizen or a green card holding or someone legal to vote. And here's another fun fact. Illegal immigrants as a whole contribute more than $80 billion. Actually, I think it's in the 100 billions in taxes and none of them can tap into the resources. None of them can tap into Social Security. None of them, the only thing they really get is, the public assistance like Medicaid and stuff that's provided by each state. But I bet you didn't know that, did you? No. So they put in a lot of money tax-wise. They work for sometimes under minimum wage, and because it's cheap labor. And then you wonder why your vegetables and all that other stuff went up. I remember someone tried to blame me for the last president, or tried to blame the last president for the price of eggs. It's like, you know what, homies? He tried to tell the person, you need to handle this. And the person didn't. And his entire flock got infected. And so they had to all be euthanized. Over 100,000 of the flock had to be euthanized, which means supply and demand makes it go up. So it was trying to be handled. But they're like, no, I got it. Don't tell me what to do. And why? Because they disagreed politically. And look what happened. So do your homework. Think for yourself. That's all I'm asking. Just think for yourself. Don't call other people sheep. Because like I said, when you're pointing the finger, there's 3 pointing back at you. And nobody likes that. And it's okay to be wrong. I've learned that. I actually found that to be one of my strengths, admitting I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot. But when I talk about things like this, I do try to get my facts straight. And I do my homework. So, and people will sit there and go, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. How do you know? And it's like, because I look at both sides. I do. And I also look at what the world writes about us. There aren't just economists in the United States. There are economists all around this world, and they have to keep an eye on every country because every country can affect each other's economy. So just think about all these things, I do hope that you're not, for those of you that may have watched this far that don't agree with me, that's okay. That's why we live in this country. While we have freedom of speech, which seems to be, disappearing very slowly, depending on who you are and what you speak out against. That's not being a leader. That's basically saying, I want you to follow me and love me, or you're going to pay for it. And that's not right. This is America. America holds her arms open to everybody. Everybody. We do our best to, be good to other people. It just takes kindness. And like I said, imagine, there's the movie The Day After Tomorrow, right? America gets destroyed by this huge, huge storm. And guess who's welcoming everybody in at the end of the movie? Mexico. And yeah, it's just a movie. But what if that was to happen? As ungracious as we've been to our northern and southern neighbors, I have no doubt in my mind that, they would take us in. I have friends in Canada that say, I wish I could adopt you and bring you up here. It's like, I appreciate you. I have a friend in England that wishes they could adopt me and bring me over there. And one of them, he's like, he calls me his nerd sister. It's so cute. He's like my little nerd brother. But he's like, I do worry about you because I see your news over there. And he's all, those people are crazy. And, and this is people from other countries. So, oh, thank you, Sammy, my muddy sis, my muddy twin. I love you. Thank you. So, like I said, all right, I'm going to hang up now because I'm pretty much just rambling at this point, but I needed to say that. I needed to get it out of my system. I had to get it out of me, and I had to get it out of me hard. But tomorrow I'm going to go back to Pride stuff. I've been working on something and I think I have to redo it now because there was some sketchy shit in there because, some colors did not match what they were saying they were. But, maybe I gave it away a little bit what I'm talking about tomorrow. But it'll be fun. It'll be fun and it'll be a little less serious than this. And I do apologize. I did not expect this show to be this long today. But it is what it is. I've said my piece. I've said what I had to say. And thank you. Thank you, Sammy. I appreciate that immensely. You may be the only one that agrees with me, but I do appreciate that. Let's just go out there and be kind to one another, okay? Kindness is free. Guess what? Kindness is free. And it really is. We don't need to go out there and, be assholes to one another. And I speak for myself too. I need to be a better human. I really do. I need to be a better human. And I am trying. All right, I am trying. So I'm going to let you all go today. Have a great day. I'll see you back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public on under Shelly Marie, and you can find me across the board on social media. All right, have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Muddy Twin, I love you. Thank you for popping on, and thank you for the reassurance because I definitely needed that. All right, have a great day, everybody.